Okay, so let's talk about portfolio management in fixed income. And the only reason why I'm getting really interested into this and excited about the topic, because that's how I see the value of bonds. Okay, for individual investors, bond is just part of the portfolio to make it efficient. Okay? However, for institutional investors, bonds a lot of times are very essential for them to manage their liability. So let's just talk about it. Okay, so we have pension plans. Okay, as I mentioned before the first exam, right? Pension plans, their job is essentially liability, right? Payment in the future. We have something. This is also very similar to something called a defined benefit plan. Okay. For this topic, defined benefit plan is in. I think this is in advanced accounting. Okay. So that's why it also covered heavily in CFA level 2. And also CPA exam. Okay, anything about financial accounting, you will learn a lot about defined benefit plan and how to model it. Okay, essentially, what they are trying to do is still payments, right, in the future. So that's pension plan or defined benefit plan, or even insurance company, right? Insurance. Those all of them are essentially financial institutions that will have to manage future liability, and then if they miss a payment in the future, the consequence is very bad. Okay? So for insurance companies, they will have to declare bankruptcy. They have to liquidate. Okay? We do have individual retirement plans. I mentioned a while ago. When we manage individual retirement plans, most of the time we just use bond as a part of the portfolio. Okay. However, if you think it, this is just a new perspective of thinking about things. Okay. This time, right? The future. No. Okay. We know those are liabilities. Okay. How can we manage those liabilities? Some of them are known, right? Like bond, right? It will be known liabilities, or if you want to pay for kids' tuition, that's known, and they have uncertainty here. That's why for DB plans, you have to calculate what is your liability and how much will that be for a defined benefit plan or even pension plans, right? Pension plan is just relatively larger, kind of include state level. Those two are various. Pension plan is, you can consider it to be defined benefit plan. I think Social Security also is considered a pension plan. A lot of uncertainty. That's why CPA in financial accounting part is a little bit hard when it comes to defined benefit plan calculation, because they have to project it, and they also test it very heavily in the same level of a CFA exam. Is it useful? I don't know. I just think pension plans are dying. Unless you manage pension plans, probably not that useful. Okay, I kind of forget everything I know about pension plan accounting already. But the idea is very important. I remember the idea. I will forget all the rules. Okay? Then future investments, right? If it's a large financial institution, they are going to receive some money in the future, right? If it's we all know it's accrual accounting, right? When we do accrual accounting, when the transaction happens, you're going to record revenue and expense. However, you don't really receive cash So you might expect cash flow into the future if you want to pre-invest those cash into the future, or you want to hedge it, right? If you want to hedge some risk, because you could have invested right now if you have the cash. If you want to hedge the opportunity cost, there are also ways to do that. So very large picture, very interesting perspective, and I will break that down to very small parts, and this is what you need to know for the final project and the second exam. Okay. So we talk about the theoretical parts, the first basics, and then fixed income portfolio management fundamentals. Now it's the practical part. Okay. So I'm not saying all those right now. Okay, there are mainly three ways to match or to manage future liability. Okay, one is called a principal, the other called duration, third is called cash flow matching. Okay, principal matching is very casual. Okay, it's like so let's say you have some liability in the future, right? 1, 2, 3. Let's say you have 3 cash flow. Let me just take kids for example. You need to pay for your kids' education for the next 4 years. So what do we do in managing this? What they say is, okay, you can just match the principal, right? If you need 10 grand here, 20 grand here, 30 grand here, 40 grand here. Okay. If it is your future cash flow needs or future liability, then you can just buy a bond, right? To make sure the principal matches. That makes sense. So a lot of times it will just make sure the principal matches. You'll be like, yes, I understand if the principal matches this amount, that's good. But what if it has coupon payments? They just ignore coupons. Okay, why? Because practically this is still useful. Ideally, you want to do cash flow matching, right? So let's say you want to buy so this tool is very similar. Okay, you can just buy 4, right? 0 coupon government bonds, right? Let's say you want to buy a government bond, right? One is 1 year, one is 2 year, one is 3 year, one is 4 year. Because it's 0 coupon, right? You just want to make sure the principal will match this amount. Okay, that will be a perfect hedge, right? 1 year later, you have one bond that will mature, and then the Fed will give you $10,000 because that's the par value of your position. Okay. And then 2 years later, they will give you 20 grand because you bought 2. Okay. 30 year you bought 3, and then 40 you bought 4. Right? They will give you the money back, and then you can consider right here the principal, because it's 0 coupon, the principal equals to the cash flow, right? This 2 is the same in this case. Okay. However, government bonds, can you buy 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year easily? No, that's the beautiful part about bond market. Okay, liquidity is an issue. Okay, you might not be able to get a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year 0 coupon treasury bond as you wish. So what can you do? So then you can just find alternatives, right? You can just do principal match. So as soon as the principal matches, that will be okay. You only care about the principal. If there are coupons they pay you, that's fine. You can just reinvest those. So that will open the door to many other bonds available, right? Corporate bond, because many bonds bearing coupons in the corporate world. Okay, let me just erase this. There are for treasury bill or treasury bonds, right? There are some called P strips. Okay. So what they do is, if it's a bond with, if it's a treasury bond, okay, if it's a treasury bond with coupons, right, with the principal, financial institutions is going to, it's kind of cut the coupons away from the principal, okay, just financial engineering product. They just cut all the principals all the coupons away from the principal and then sell this separately. Or they can even cut all the coupons out, right? If the coupon is $1 each, they will cut it, right? If it's $1,000 each, right? Let me just do $1. That's easy to understand. Like 1% coupon, right? They will just cut it 1%. Then they can just do many $1 together, right? You can create $1,000, right? So essentially, you can create many zero coupon bonds from a treasury bonds financially. Okay, so and then they also sell those in the market. But I have no experience as an individual investor trading this. I know I'm very sure financial institutions they trade those. I'm not quite sure about individuals. We, as individuals, we have very limited access to the financial market. Okay. So anyway, cash flow matching and principal matching, this is just very casual way, but practically easier to implement. And let me just go back and talk about cash flow, right? 2, 3, 4 years. 20K, 30K, and 40K. If you do cash flow matching, okay, if you just buy 4 different bonds, right, just match the cash flow, that will be a perfect hedge, okay. Perfect hedge means what? Means a lot of time you have to buy a 1-year bond or 2-year bond, okay. So that means you will have very short duration, or you are going to have large position in short-term fixed income assets. This is very, very costly, okay? And a lot of time to match those liabilities, you have to turn them into cash, okay? You have a large position, okay? You have large percentage in short-term fixed income assets, or even cash, okay? Or sometimes cash, right? Because you have to maintain liquidity. So that will make it very costly, okay? You have to hold literally a lot of money in cash to hedge this position. That's expensive, okay? So this is very expensive. Very expensive. And this year, right, in one of the CFA exams, they ask you like, even though it's expensive, but why would you use it, right? One of the reasons would be liquidity. Okay? So the case was given in emerging market with very low liquidity. Okay, so literally, what does liquidity means? You can, if you want to sell it, okay. If you want to sell it, it's very hard to sell. So then you have to do cash flow matching, because when you do cash flow matching, you don't have to sell it. You can just go give it back to the company. The company will give you cash. So that part is very liquid. So that's one of the reasons why they use cash flow matching, even though it's very expensive to implement. Okay, is that making sense? It's like you need to spend some money in the future. How can you hedge it? Right? You put a lot of money in cash. Okay, so that's one way to hedge it. Cash flow matching you can implement using like right here we have 4 assets, right? So we have 4 bonds, right? This is called a laddered bond portfolio. It's like this, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4 ladders. Or if you just climb it, right? This is the ladder. Okay? You just climb up. Okay, so that's what it says. Okay? Cash flow matching is always is a lot of times done with laddered portfolio. Okay, the benefit is it provides a perfect hedge. The cons will be it's very costly. You have to maintain a lot of money in cash or short-term bonds. We all know short-term bonds, right, pay low yield to maturity. Okay, you will not pay you that good as compared with the long-term bonds. So that's cash flow matching. But there are certain situations that you need to implement it. It is not that common. Okay, not that common in practice. A lot of times we do duration matching. Okay. Because liabilities, okay, the future liabilities, let's say this is a cash flow, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? This is a future payment, right? Payment 1, payment 2, payment 3, payment 4. We will calculate the present value. Okay? So this is also what accountants do when they take the CPA exam, okay? Because you just need to calculate the present value, okay, of liability. Because that's future money, okay? That's future money. And then we need to compare that with current assets value. So if you want to see that whether you have enough money, okay, if you want to see whether you have enough money to hedge future liability, you just need to see whether your current value of the asset, because assets will grow into the future. You just want to see whether your present value of the assets is equal to the present value of the liability, okay? So that's a common way to do it. And then when interest rate changes or the market return changes, right, the liability, present value of the liability, right, this is equal to, let me just erase those. So this will equal to payment 1, right, divided by 1 plus R1, right? So we can see that the present value of liability, we have something called a discount factor here, okay? And then this is essentially interest rate, right? Interest rate we'll be talking about. If interest rate goes up, okay, your present value of liability will go down, okay? This goes down, this will go down. What does that mean? That means you will need to have less assets to hedge that liability because your assets can simply grow at a larger rate. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, so given this, we know that it will change, right? This is a dynamic value. So and then also this is the future payment, right? So that's why if you still remember this from a while ago, okay? So that's why we need a duration or modified duration, because we want to calculate how much of the present value of liability will change. Thus, we can calculate whether your assets will be enough to hedge it, okay? So that's why we do duration matching, okay? So when the change of, let me just start with the change of liability, right? We can see that when interest rate changes, okay, the liability will change, right? Then a lot of times in managing this future liability, we use bonds, okay? Because the bond will pay you amount of money in the future. This will also subject to this equation, okay? So that's our assets. Our assets is bonds, right? This will also equal to this. If we make those two change the same way, then our position is hedged, okay? We all know that change of interest rate is probably the same, okay? Sometimes this is not the same, okay? Let me just erase this and then emphasize again because it's kind of hard to see already. We want to make sure our change of liability matches our change of assets, and then this is the bond portfolio, okay? We don't talk about equity here because equity is kind of very different. You can use equity to hedge it, but it's very risky hedge. The basis cost is very high. And then we know that change of the price equals to the price times duration times change of y. Okay? This is negative, okay? So if price, or this is the value, right? This is the value of the liability, and then this, and then this is a change of the value of the liability. If we want to make sure the change of assets, we just want to make sure that those two equal to each other, okay? A lot of times, okay, when a position is founded, okay, so when your position, right, your previous position is founded. So what does that really mean? That means the present value of liability equals the present value of assets. Okay, this could be different, but if it's a funded position, you have enough fund to fund your future obligation. That's called a funded position. If you don't have enough money to fund your future obligation, it's called underfunded. If you have more money than necessary to fund your future obligation, it's called overfunded. Okay. So we assume that it is fully funded, then those two are equal to each other, right? This will equal to each other. And then the interest rate change of liability and assets. Sometimes those two are will be equal to each other, okay? So the impact, okay, a lot of times it will be the change of yield from a treasury or federal rate, right? And then you will see whether the treasury bill or the interest rate from Federal Reserve change have the same impact on liability or assets. If it has the same, then those two equal to each other. If it does not, if it has different effect, okay, or impact, you just need to do regression analysis. You need to pick, right? Let's say you can just do a regression analysis of change of Y and then change of Y treasury bill, right? And then just regress it, right? You'll get a beta, okay? Let's say get a beta equal to 2, okay? And then you have liability, and then this, and then you get another beta, okay? Let's say this is 1.5, right? So then you can say the change of assets equals to, right, 2 times the change of treasury rate. Okay, the change of Y equals to 1.5 times the change of treasury rate. So those are from regression analysis or some other ways. And then you just need to implement those into this. So essentially, I'm giving you the essentials of this duration hedging. Many people don't understand it. Many people will just jump directly to the duration of those two match each other. But essentially what's going on is you just need to make sure the change of the value of assets equals to the change of the value of the liability, okay? So that's when those two change of value will equal to each other, and then you can see whether they have the same initial value, whether the duration of liability and assets is different. And then when you decide the impact, okay, interest rate change, because bonds, okay, let's say you do a triple B rated portfolio, right? So let's say when the treasury bill changes 1%, will the triple B change 1%? Sometimes no, okay. Sometimes it will change more, sometimes it will change less, okay. I can tell you, triple B, okay, this is the investment grade, okay. This bond will change less, probably less or close to 1%. Okay. Depends on why the treasury bill changes 1%. Okay, if there's nothing wrong, it's just the Federal Reserve is doing something. The Federal Reserve has to tell you why they increase it by 1%. If they think economy is doing bad, then we will have very big credit risk. Then the junk bond will increase more. Triple B and beta will still increase less than the junk bond because they are more sensitive to interest rate changes. Okay. So this is essential. Again, I'm recording this video, so if you you have any questions about it, you can always come back and watch the video. Okay. So that's the essential of duration matching. And then if those two are also the same, this is also the same. A lot of times we'll just make sure the duration of liability matches the duration of the bond. That's what I showed you a while ago in illustrating the concept of immunization. And then changing the value of money, okay, we talk about modified duration, however, we ignore convexity, right, because we know that change of this equals to the modified duration plus convexity. We ignore the convexity, okay. So when we have liability, okay, when we have liability, you will have, they will have a convexity. It comes with, okay, it comes with convexity, okay. You just need to know that when you match, excuse me. So you just need to know that when you manage the portfolio, you just need to make sure that your convexity of your assets, okay, is at least larger than or equal to the convexity of your liability. Otherwise, you, otherwise you can look from this equation. Convexity is good; it's always positive, okay. Otherwise, you are going to lose more money, okay, from your assets compared with the liability. Your position will be underfunded. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. And if you worry about the future changes, okay, of interest rate, you should increase your convexity. The larger, the better. Okay, the larger your asset convexity, the better it handles interest rate movements when it is parallel. So this kind of illustrate. So we have some liabilities payouts, right? Those are the future liabilities we projected, and then we have some cash inflow, right? This is inflow, this is outflow. So we can see that if you combine coupon and principal together, it's called cash flow matching. If you just use principal, it will be called principal payments. Okay. This is a cash flow matching illustration. You can see that it matches it very well. Okay. So you can use multiple bonds, or you can just use a bond that pays coupons. Okay. So this is a comparison. Okay. So duration matching assumes parallel yield curve shift. So what does that really mean? Okay. So this is our yield curve, right? So it simply assumes that it's going to shift parallel up or down. Okay, so that's duration matching. That's when either it goes up or goes down, your asset will equal to a liability, so you are still funded in your position. Okay. For cash flow matching, you don't need to worry about it. You don't even need to worry about interest rates or anything. You just need to worry about credit risk here. So it's like you deposit some money, $10,000 into the future, they have to pay you $10,000, no matter what happened to the market, unless they declare bankruptcy, which is a credit event. Okay. So if you are interested to understand more about it, you can just read over this. It is kind of complex. Okay. So if you feel like you don't understand it, it's totally reasonable. Okay. My interpretation of something in finance is it is always hard and technical. That's why we make so many mistakes. Not in our exams, okay? Some people managing this, if they make a mistake, they'll probably like several $1 million. Because it's complicated, it's very technical, and a lot of times we don't really understand what's going on unless we make a mistake, okay? So many practitioners wrote this out to share with us what's going on. The principle, okay, of duration matching is just what I mentioned a while ago. Okay, if you can read over this, and then you can also watch the video. Let me just focus more on this. Okay, so there are mainly three strategies to hedge. Okay, so one is called a barbell strategy. We have bullet strategy, and then we have laddered bound strategy. Okay. So what does that really mean? Okay, so again, if you want to, let's say if your liability, right, the duration of your liability equals to 15 to modify duration. Okay, how can you do duration matching? How can you hedge it? So you just need to, we assume that the impact of interest rate will be the same on the change of interest rate or the change of year to maturity on both asset and liability. So we just need to worry that we just need to find something, right, Just want to make sure that our duration of the asset multiplied duration of the asset also equals to 15. So how can you do it? Okay. So you can do multiple things, right? You can do a 50% in 1 year and then 50% in 29, sorry, 50% in 29 year bond, right? So 1 plus 29, because this is zero coupon bonds, divide by 2, and then your duration will equal to 15, okay? So that's pretty straightforward, right? Right here, I assume the duration and multiplied duration is the same. It doesn't really matter. We are never going to have perfect match. Okay, as long as your hedge is close enough, that's acceptable. Then 15, right? This is one way, or you can just do, right? Why don't you just do one bond, right, with 15 years of maturity? And then that also satisfies our duration match strategies. Okay. Or you can do a ladder strategy. You can do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, and then you just do like 20 bonds, right? Altogether, you just need to make sure that the weighted duration equals to 15. This is called a ladder strategy. Okay. So that should be straightforward. Okay, you should have no issue understanding this. Okay. So you need to know that I draw a while ago, okay, convexity and then time to maturity, okay, this is a convex function, okay. So if you do one short term and then one long term bond, you are going to have the largest convexity. This is really important, okay. If you simply do one bullet strategy by one bond, you are going to have the smallest convexity. If you do multiple bonds, okay, your convexity will be in the middle, okay. We talk about convexity, why it is good, right? So convexity is good when you are worrying about future interest rate shifts, okay. If interest rate goes up a lot or goes down a lot, higher convexity, so this has more protection. However, it's more expensive too, especially the 30-year bond, okay? And then this is cheap, right? However, if interest rate changes, you are going to have the least protection, okay? And then the latter portfolio will be in the middle, okay? So this is a really interesting portfolio, right? When the 1 year matures, you don't really need the money today. You need it 15 years later, okay? When the 1 year matures, you will turn into cash, right? You are going to use the 1 year to buy a long-term bond, right? Because this becomes a 2 year, this becomes a 4 year, this becomes a 6 year, okay? Then 2 years later, when this matures, you are going to buy another long-term bond. This is called a roll, right? It's called a rolling, okay? It's very common in future contracts. There is a trading strategy called a stack and a roll. So very technical and interesting institutional trading strategy. A lot of time in commodity futures. Okay. So this is very important to know, and you will be tested on those. Okay. However, let me see what I have. Okay, this is the last slide. So you need to know that convexity will only hedge against parallel shift, okay, like this. This is okay. Convexity can handle this very well, or duration matching. Okay. However, if I draw this, so this is the old curve, right? This is the old yield curve. This is time, and then this is the percentage. If interest rate, okay, shifts like this, what does that really mean? It tells you that the short-term interest rate goes up, the long-term interest rate also goes up. However, the intermediate interest rate goes down. Okay. So this is the intermediate rate, right? This is the rate we use to discount our liability. So what does that really mean to our liability? So that means our liability will go up, okay, because the discount rate goes down, right? So that tells you have to have more money to hedge the future liability. However, let's look at this. This is 1 year, this is 29 year, this is 15 year. However, our 1 year interest rate goes up, our 29th year interest rate goes up too. So when this goes up, our asset will go down. Okay? So this creates an underfund issue, or it will create some funding risk. So the yield curve does not always shift parallelly. Okay, it can do this kind of shift or twist. Okay, so this is the risk that you don't really hedge, even if you have large convexity. Okay, so in this case, you need to know which strategy is the best. In this case, this strategy is the worst. Okay? If interest rate changes this way, this strategy is the worst because you pay a lot of money for it. However, when interest rate changes, you lose the most. You are very underfunded. Okay? Then this is always in the middle because it's kind of in between those, and then this is the best. So this is one. Okay, this is one change that could happen, right? And then interest rate can also change this way. So the intermediate rate will go up. However, the long-term rate could go down. Okay? It does not really need to be like as dramatic as this. I think I draw too dramatically, right? It can be like this. That makes sense. So the intermediate rate is going up, and then the short-term and long-term rate is going down. Okay. In this case, your asset will go up, your liability present value, okay, will go down. You are overfunded. Okay. And then in this case, this is the best. You just need to know that how future interest rate change will impact the effectiveness of those three trading strategies. Okay. Financial advisors a lot of time use this because it's fairly simple, easy to understand and communicate to clients. Okay, but in institutional side, they will do multiple of those and then combine together with some other interest rate related products and derivatives to manage it. So as I told you, finance is a very technical area. Okay, so if you you just need to be technical, okay, to understand those. That's why a lot of times they hire people from engineering or statistics to do financial modeling other than students from finance. Even though I can teach you guys the ideas, but the math on the line might be a little bit too much for students with no mathematical background. So, but there are a lot of other jobs in finance, right? Don't require those. I showed you guys two areas in finance. One is private wealth management. I think many of you probably can relate to that. At least, okay, right now you should be able to understand how to manage your own investments given your family situation and your personal goals. That's called an individual asset wealth management. And then the second part is institutional portfolio management, especially toward the end of this class. It's using fixed income portfolio to manage future liabilities. The idea is very similar, but it's just more technical and it involves products that you don't really see every day in your daily life. Okay. So that's all I have for today. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, remember you have two group Ks and one assignments due. So make sure you get those done. And we have no class next week. I'll be in New York. And then on the 30th, I will let you guys know whether we have to meet or I can just host office hours in my office. Okay. Thank you. That's all we have for this semester.